I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
We got too many.
Is on now.
We got dynasties of corruption. Dynasties. Welcome to the program, 870-275-9799. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Paul. So first of all, we got a great show for you. Coming up at the top of the next hour, we're going to be talking with Dale Summit of Old South Restaurant in Russellville, a fantastic place to eat, by the way. We've eaten there several times. We're going to be doing a small business spotlight on him and just kind of check it in. I mean, right now, I'm sure that place is bumping because, it's breakfast time. I mean, they serve mean breakfast. Also, and I'm excited about this, we're going to be interviewing Mary Graybar. Mary is the author of a book that was out this month, It's called Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States has sold more than 2.5 million copies. It's pushed by Hollywood celebrities, defended by university professors who know better, and assigned in high school and college classrooms to teach students that American history is nothing more than a litany of oppression, slavery, and exploitation. So, A People's History of the United States. Howard Zinn, this book that is, has been used. This author, Mary Graybar, she says, I'm writing a book basically debunking his book. Now, remember Larry Schweitzer? We had him on back before the 2018 midterms. He's also a very famous author, very accomplished author, and especially in conservative circles. He wrote A Patriot's History of the United States, which is one of the thickest books I've ever read, and also one that is filled with incredible detail. You can see the reason why he titled it A Patriot's History of the United States, because it's in direct response as well to A People's History of the United States. Anyway, so we're going to be talking to Mary Graybar coming up at 7:33 this morning about her book. We got a lot of news to get to between now and then. Let's talk first about... let's start with Senator Tom Cotton. Senator Cotton was in Arkansas yesterday. He sat down with Roby Brock, and the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette has a recap of this, that Cotton backs buying Greenland. This is the headline over at the Gazette. Senator says he floated the idea to Trump and the Danish ambassador. So Senator Cotton here is saying, look, this this idea to buy Greenland was something that that I originally approached the Danish ambassador about because it's of its strategic implications for the United States and our military, our armed forces. Also, you gotta if you'll remember a while back, there was. The Danes were actually in negotiations with the Chinese to allow the Chinese to put a base or two in Greenland, and the United States pressured them to basically, hey, quit negotiating this, and that basically killed the deal. So Cotton said he had, he probably wouldn't have canceled the trip. Cotton's comments came during an interview with Roby Brock. Roby Brock asking Why are we talking about buying Greenland? Cotton replied, obviously the right decision for this country. There's a reason why. So you're joking, but I can reveal to you that several months ago, I met with the Danish ambassador, and I proposed they sell Greenland to us. It's obviously the right decision for the United States, and anyone who can't see that is blinded by Trump derangement. Hold on to that comment in a moment, because we'll get to Trump derangement here in just a second. Anyone who can't see it is blinded by Trump derangement. That is exactly the case here. It may, listen to this, it may have been surprising to a lot of people last week to hear it in the news, but there's a reason why Harry Truman, 70 years ago, recognized this was an obvious advantage to the American people. Cotton also pointed to Chinese efforts in recent years. It's almost like they've been cheerleading for a recession. Speaking of the U.S. economy, it's understandable from their point, politicians and pundits don't lose their jobs when there's a recession, but real hardworking Americans do. People should remember what the last recession was like before they start rooting for another recession, even if it would benefit their electoral ambitions. Yeah, also, if there's a recession, you have an economic downturn, then of course, Arkansas, for example, doesn't have the type of unemployment that we have. We don't have the type of GDP that we have. And then, if you look at our fiscal house, which is one that I would argue is not in order, Arkansans may be looking at future tax increases if there were a recession. But I digress. Back to Trump derangement syndrome, okay? Senator Cotton is right. If the idea of buying Greenland is so offensive to the left because they just don't like the fact that Trump is in charge and attempting to make decisions, and so you're blinded. You don't even want to consider the idea of the United States acquiring a new territory because you are just blinded by your hatred for President Trump. But if you'll actually look here, you don't have to go far to find that lack of sight over at the Arkansas Times with Max Brantley. Arkansas Times reporting on this, quote, Tom Cotton behind the buy Greenland gambit. And Max Brantley writing, the U.S. is now a world laughingstock for Donald Trump's idea to buy Greenland and Denmark's curt response to the absurd idea that it wasn't for sale. New angle, blame the laugh riot on none other than U.S. Senator Tom Cotton. And he says he's from Sand Lizard, Arkansas, so that's very respectful. Anyway, you don't have to go far. So here's Max Brantley, who is, their hatred for Donald Trump now just completely dwarfs any patriotism, any idea. I mean, wouldn't it be cool? You realize how big Greenland is? It's humongous. It is absolutely huge. You could start at the top of the country. You're in the middle of the country, like Michigan, and you come down. You're going to come down, southeast, right into Arkansas, across the Mississippi, then head southwest down into Texas, and then up, and then basically up and cover all the Midwest. I mean, it's a giant piece of land. I saw like a map the other day. So, here's Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, listen to Max Brantley's full piece here. He credits, Politico's tweet, this is a tweet from Politico, Tom Lobianco. Interesting, while we're on Greenland again, GOPer made a sharp observation earlier today that Trump is influenced not by factions but by individuals. Let's see. Elena Johnson finds that Tom Cotton is at center of Greenland mania. Max Brantley says the item comes from Politico's playbook and is credited to Elena Johnson, who covers the White House for Politico. Cotton joined a friendly in-the-news business at a paid lunch in Little Rock today. No word yet if Greenland came up. Wonder if Cotton agrees with calling the Prime Minister of Denmark nasty, as Trump did, calling out the absurdity of the idea. Trump has continued his attack on Denmark, complaining that it doesn't pay enough to NATO. Update: at the Little Rock event, Cotton confirmed his advocacy of the idea, a no-brainer. He said, no kidding. Listen to Max Brownlee. No kidding. When the other side has no interest, you'd have to have a few bricks shy to propose it. So, again, obviously, if President Trump were not the president, if he were not the one advocating this, if Barack Obama was advocating it, Max Brantley and the other people on the left would really have no problem with it. That's the bottom line here. I mean, think about this for a second. His last line here, no kidding, when the other side has no interest, you'd have to be a few bricks shy to propose it. I mean, not if you know anything about negotiating. And, you got to feel somebody out. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know if they are open to selling Greenland. There is such an assumption of elitism and arrogance, and they assume, and the left does this, and they're going to do this, and it's going to, they're going to waltz right into 2020 and Trump's going to win again. They assume that the president is not an intelligent human being. That's what they assume. And by the way, I mean, if you know anything about the Danes, I mean, when the president said, hey, I'm canceling my trip. Hey, and by the way, thanks for being so honest because it saves your country a lot of expense. It saves my country from a lot of expense. Essentially, hey, call us when you're open to selling this to us. It's it's certainly a businessman tactic. It's a tactic of negotiation. Anyway, but people just don't get it. They would rather, from what I can tell, President Trump is about action. And for so long, I mean, we're just not used to it. For so long, the presidents, heads of state, they just talk. They have summits and they talk. They talk about what they're going to do, and nothing really ever gets done. You know what I mean? Anyway, telephone number 870-275-9799. That's an interesting story right there, that it's from Tom Cotton, that's where the president got the idea to buy Greenland. Senator says he floated the idea to Trump and floated the idea to the Danish ambassador. So that means that Senator Cotton, Arkansas's own, was actually indirectly responsible for that really funny meme where the president tweeted out the Trump casino is photoshopped onto Greenland, New Asgard, and said, I promise I won't do this to Greenland. And the left, of course, has a conniption fit because they're in emolument clause conspiracy theory land. And the president knows that. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right, so we got a lot more news to get to, but we're going to stop now, going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to, we've got a lot more Arkansas news. Let's just say that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans, participation, and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas state capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. All right, folks, hey, welcome back to the program. We appreciate it. We got a special guest with us on the line. I want to introduce you to the former Assistant U.S. Attorney in Northern California. His name is John O'Connor. John, how are you, sir?
Just fine. Great to be on your show.
Absolutely, sir. I appreciate you appreciate you having the time this morning. We have I've got this book of yours. Now I see it here on Amazon. It's due out on November the 5th of this year. It's called Postgate: How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. What made you want to write this book, sir?
Well, actually, I didn't start out trying to write it. Part of what I do in the book is it's half a memoir, and I talk about my dealings with the Washington Post and trying to do my job as a lawyer and sort of the fellow who is the spokesman for Mark Felt, a.k.a. Deep Throat. And I promise.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Here we go. Welcome back. Oh, by the way, you know, this other thing, and I feel the need to kind of put a bow around this idea that, you know, the left, Politico, saying that the Trump doesn't listen to factions, he listens to people. Like that's somehow a negative thing. The media has just completely lost their mind. Trump doesn't listen to factions. He listens to people like Tom Cotton, who told him that maybe you need to think about buying Greenland. You know, that would be a big strategic asset for us. Excuse me, folks. I don't know what's going on this morning, but I have this frog in my throat. Can't seem to get rid of it. Emergency bottle of water. Also, I think he does listen to individuals. I mean, for example, when we almost went to war, I think he was listening to, with Iran, I think he was listening to Rand Paul. And then that was my hypothesis. And then later on, we find out that over a golf game, Trump was like, hey, yeah, why don't you talk to the ambassador of Iran? Or, why don't you try to negotiate peace or whatever? When the president came back and was like, hey, I think, I don't think we're going to go to war. We're going to cancel this strike. I don't want to kill 150 Iranians, because they shot down one unmanned drone. It was an unmanned drone. I'm not going to kill 150. Not going to take 150 Iranians off the planet for that. Now, that may not be good for, some who are hawks on the right or whatever, but, man, I mean, what a thoughtful response that was. And, of course, the left and the Democrats then called Trump basically a pansy, and you don't have the guts. And it's kind of odd because the left used to be their position, right? No war, with diplomacy, that sort of thing. I saw where Mitt Romney was saying that Kim Jong-un and Iran, they don't need to be praised or cajoled. They need to be, need to be strong talk. Well, the president certainly has done that in the past. Anyway, it's just interesting. I think the left and the media, they are upset. I said this before. Trump has stolen their girlfriend when it comes to these international incidents and the idea of peace, the idea of trying to get peace, the idea of trying to have talks with people that, yeah, they've done terrible things to their people, but this effort to try to prevent nuclear war or to try to prevent Iran from getting the bomb. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the media has really just lost their mind, and they're actually going back and really are giant hypocrites on a lot of things that used to be kind of the bedrock default positions if you were an American journalist. But because it's Trump derangement syndrome, therapists everywhere are having very good years, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. It's probably been the best 3 years of their lives. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Now, if you want to know what the next big outcry from the left is going to be on the national scale, on the national scene, then you need to be aware that the president is looking at ending birthright citizenship. This headline here, Kamala Harris suggests anchor baby policy enshrined in U.S. Constitution, from presidential candidate Kamala Extract Harris. After President Trump said he is very seriously reviewing an executive order to end birthright citizenship, Harris hit back on Twitter, writing, "This president should seriously consider reading the Constitution." However, we do know that there are many conservative scholars that argue that birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment, the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, does not provide mandatory birthright citizenship to the U.S. Born children of illegal aliens or non-citizens, as these children are not subject to U.S. jurisdiction, as that language was understood when the 14th Amendment was written. And so this is going, now listen to this part of the article, scrolling now, this is going to be a big issue, and the left is going to once again say that the president's racist, because that's all they can say now, that Russia has failed and everything else has failed. One swing voter, listen to this, this is according to a Michigan focus group of swing voters. One swing voter hit back against the U.S. policy of providing birthright citizenship to the U.S.-born children of illegal aliens, saying, quote, "We shouldn't give away our birthright like candy," meaning that all they have to do is cross the border illegally, pop out a kid, and they're a U.S. citizen. Two illegals do not a citizen make. So it's going to be, this will be the next thing. This will, I mean, it's going to, especially if the president acts in any way on this, it will certainly. But hey, you know, at some point you do have to fix the incentive problem. And it really, I mean, I'm for what the Constitution says. So, you know, I don't think if you look at the language that they use, which is very easy to find, it's pretty easy to figure out the 14th Amendment did not mean birthright citizenship. Matter of fact, if you kind of look into this, President Trump has at least two routes to victory through a legal fight. It must be noted that for both, you've got a legal challenge to an executive order issued in November 2018 would almost certainly not make it all the way to petitioning the U.S. Supreme Court until after the cutoff in mid-January 2020. The first route to victory is that the Supreme Court could hold that the specific provisions of the executive order are authored under current statute. The second is that the court could hold that one or more of those provisions require congressional action, but could signal that the Constitution permits such changes. If so, there would be a massive push to tweak the current statute. Anyway, it's to me, I think it's clear. I mean, you know, there are going to be scholars on both that are going to argue differently on it. But anyway, let me know what you think. Facebook.com/Conduit News. Okay, so when we come back, we got State Representative Andy Davis is not seeking re-election to his House seat. We also have an interesting case where former Attorney General of Arkansas, Dustin McDaniel, is now representing Joe Biden's son in a paternity case where a woman in Independence County is claiming that she had a relationship with Hunter Biden, and they've got a kid together. Also, your taxes may be going up. Well, I mean, they are going up, but they may be going up from a different avenue because they've made a mistake in how they valued your property, your vehicles, and so now you're going to pay more in taxes. Surprise, surprise on that front. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll be back here in just a moment. folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas state capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
The family that I would tell his story for history, and along the way sort of got obstructed, as I talk about in the book, and the long and short of this, I stumbled into it, Paul. I stumbled into this and was very surprised when I found what I found. Let me put it that way.
Really? So,
Yes.
normally, you think about this idea of protecting sources is something that's very sacred in journalism, and that wasn't the case?
Well, think about this, Paul. One of the fellows who sort of made source protection the golden rule of journalism was, of course, Bob Woodward, through his talk about Deep Throat. Everybody thought how wonderful he's protecting Deep Throat. But if we think about it for a second, probably 1 billion people know or quickly learned that there was a major source, and there was a description of him. And I was able to piece together by 1976.
Welcome back. Good morning to you. Glad that you're with us today. Telephone number 870-275-9799. State Representative Andy Davis, a Republican from Roland, announced on Tuesday that he will not seek re-election to his legislative seat. This is his statement that he gave to Talk Business and Politics, I'm sure others. After much prayer and reflection with my family, I have decided not to seek re-election to the Arkansas House of Representatives in the 2020 election cycle. I have thoroughly enjoyed serving the people of West Pulaski and northern Saline County, and I have made friends on both sides of the political aisle. All of the people I've met through this experience has made me a better person, and for that, I am deeply appreciative. I want to thank the voters of District 31 for trusting me with this opportunity for these 4 terms. It has been my honor to represent you in making policies for our state that will make Arkansas an even better place to live and work today and in the future. I'm looking forward to returning to the private sector full-time and applying the things I've learned in the legislature to business and continued non-elected service to my community. God bless Arkansas, and go Hogs. Again, Andy Davis, Republican from Roland, saying he will not seek re-election. So that means you're going to have an open seat there. Probably going to have no problem, maintaining that particular seat as a red Republican pickup. And so that's good. Very interesting. Also, they had an announcement that Democrat Eddie Cheatham, we told you this yesterday, but Democrat Eddie Cheatham is going to be challenged by Ben Gilmore, who right now works in the lieutenant governor's office. Matter of fact, I think there was pretty sure that there was let me look down here from yesterday, because I think I had, on Southeast Arkansas Today, there was an announcement story about this. Let's get to that real quick. Yeah, here. And by the way, we're going to have Ben on the show Monday. We got Ben Gilmore be scheduled on the show for Monday. Ben Gilmore today announced his candidacy. This is from, again, SE Arc Today. As a Republican state Senate candidate for District 26. That's Ashley Bradley, Chicot Drew, and portions of Cleveland and Deshay and Lincoln counties. Quote, Southeast Arkansas deserves a state senator that will boldly advocate for its people for conservative values and for policies that will grow jobs in the economy. My priority in the state Senate will be centered around policies that further economic development and job growth in Southeast Arkansas. I will continue to fight for common sense fiscal responsibility in state government, and I will work to lessen the regulatory burden on businesses and hardworking Arkansans. I will continue to advocate for reading and STEM education so that the next generation is ready for every opportunity. I will fight to protect life, the Second Amendment, and defend Arkansas values. So he is currently the Deputy Chief of Staff and Communications Director for Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. I think from a platform standpoint, anytime you have a Republican who is challenging the Democrat, I mean, you just got to look at their platform. Oh, speaking of that, by the way, I was looking at so many times people like to virtue signal, obviously on Facebook and stuff, because the president says X, or the president says Y, or the president retweets somebody and says thank you. So Wayne Allen Root on the Wayne Allen Root show compared the president, said that President Trump is the best president that Israel has ever seen, and said something that he might as well be the king of Israel. And of course, this triggered people. I mean, I don't like to hear it, right? But I mean, there have been a lot of. By the way, speaking of comparisons of Donald Trump to Cyrus, don't think that just doesn't elevate that, because they've got that coin out there that people in Israel meant. I mean, the people of Israel do like the president. That's what Wayne Allen Root was getting at. And it was a commentary on what the president said about Jewish and American Jews that are continuing to vote Democrat, even though the party won't denounce anti-Semitism. But so there are people that said, I cannot believe that the president retweeted and said thank you to Wayne Allen Root, who said he was, essentially like the king of Israel. People just think heresy. People think, no, that's Jesus. Well, yeah, it is. In terms of, the king of Israel, the king of the Jews is Jesus, but also the king of kings. I mean, the king of the universe, the king of all kings. That's who Jesus is. So people, I saw one person, that was just upset by this. Like, I can't believe the president would retweet this, doesn't understand the implications, probably never read the Bible. Some really... So some things that maybe you just actually you don't know. And then I just thought to myself, okay, all right, there are people in the Republican Party, President Trump, who are not perfect. Okay, we're not perfect individuals. People say things that are wrong. People say things that are offensive. Say something good about the Democrat Party, though. When it comes down to it, say something good about okay. Say something about the Democrats say something that the Democrats support that you support. Go ahead. What do the Democrats support that you support? And if there's one thing in there, does that one thing trump all of the absolutely terrible things, abominations that they support. I mean, think about it. I mean, yeah, we could just safely land on abortion, at 9 months or after the baby's born or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, we can talk about how there are people in the Republican Party that are not perfect and that the president tweeted something that you don't like. Okay, great. But let me see, is there an issue over there? You want to vote for a Democrat because of that? That's kind of where I fall on it. And anyway, so anytime there's a Democrat being challenged by a Republican, especially in Arkansas at this, at the local level, I mean, it's certainly always encouraging to see that, I think, especially when you see kind of, now it's got to mean something. At some point it needs to, mean something. We've talked about this many times. Individual races aside, we've talked about this many times here in Arkansas. Is, the Arkansas General Assembly, with massive Republican majorities, super majorities in both chambers, just passed a net $70 million tax increase on the people for the fiscal year 2020. So you might ask the question, if we've got super majorities in the House and super majorities in the Senate, just how many Republicans would it take for us to actually start shrinking the size of government, or at least just trying to keep it the same size and let the economy grow? And so then technically government would have gotten smaller. How many more Republicans is it going to take, right? The headline for the week here at Conduit News Radio has been Dynasties of Corruption. Because I started thinking, and I'm 35 years old, so yeah, I have to look back at history for this, or I have to ask people, going all the way back to like Orville Faubus, like what kind of government has Arkansas tend to have always had, And I think dynasty is a good word for that kind of sums up our governing structure. I think dynasty is a good word for that, and I think corruption is as well. And I have this wild hypothesis that I don't know if it has any basis in fact. I really don't, but something tells me that either we were already corrupt or we became corrupt because of, like, if Al Capone is like, hey, I gotta go somewhere and get out of the heat. Where am I going to be well received? And he comes to Arkansas, comes to Hot Springs. I mean, I don't know if that's how Al Capone talked. He probably talked like this instead. I don't know. Forgive me. But so was it? Were we just already a place that just was like, yeah, you're in the mob, come on in, organized crime, yeah, come on in, we'll let you hang out. Was it already an encouraging environment? Kind of like maybe the Chinese see Arkansas as an encouraging environment because politicians are easy to. Again, every other situation the Chinese government goes into, Mozambique, Cuba, they grease the politicians first. What makes us think they would treat Arkansas any different? So I just kind of have this hypothesis that it was this kind of combination of Capone felt at home, or Capone, instituted a lot of, just kind of the good old boy system. Like I said, I have no evidence to back that up. It's just kind of this hypothesis, harebrained. Call it intuition, if you will. Dynasties of corruption. Dynasties of corruption. The telephone number, 870-275-9799, if you would like to contribute to the program. We would really very much appreciate it. Let's go next. So we started the segment. State Representative Andy Davis not seeking re-election. We have Ben Gilmore running as Republican against Democrat Senator Eddie Cheatham. And now we have former Attorney General Dustin McDaniel is now representing Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, in a paternity case involving a woman out of Independence County. Frank Lockwood has the story over at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. So apparently Dustin McDaniel and Hunter Biden are friends because he was the Attorney General here in Arkansas at the same time that Hunter Biden was the Attorney General in Delaware. Is it Delaware? Hang on a second. Yeah, Delaware. So that's a thing. And there is a woman who's 28 years old. Her name is London Alexis Roberts. London Alexis Roberts claims that Hunter Biden and her were intimate together and have a child. She filed a petition for paternity and child support, which wouldn't you if you were impregnated by Joe Biden's son and you started reading all that stuff about how Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got $1 billion from the Chinese. Oh, wow. Wait a second. What did I just say about greasing politicians? Yeah, so remember, Hunter Biden got all that money for the Chinese. And, he's got billions had $1 billion investment. The guy's very well off. If you were impregnated with Hunter Biden's child, I'm pretty sure you'd be filing for child support, wouldn't you? Now, she filed this petition for child support. Again, her name is London Alexis Roberts, 28. 3 days or a couple of days after he married another woman in California. So Hunter Biden gets married. London finds out. Says, hey, that's not right. We've got a child together. It's a 2-page lawsuit. States that Roberts and Hunter Biden were in a relationship and that baby Doe, D-O-E, baby Doe, was born in August 2018 as a result of the relationship. London Roberts is a, one second. London Roberts is a 2014 Arkansas State University graduate whose attorney said that Roberts met Hunter Biden while taking subsequent courses at George Washington University. Now, is that in St. Louis, Joe? It's George Washington University in St. Louis? And so she just wants to establish that Hunter Biden is the baby's biological father. Now, Dustin McDaniel, again, former Arkansas Attorney General, is now representing Hunter Biden in court. They're essentially saying that Biden hasn't been properly served according to California law, blah, 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 and that he doesn't have enough information to know if anything is true that's being said. Which is a legal tactic to essentially stall and do your darndest to delay. Can you imagine if this is true? I mean, I think, and it may not be true, but it very well might be true. Let's see here. Paragraph 5 states that Roberts and Hunter Biden were in a relationship and a child, baby Doe, was born as a result of that relationship. And they are saying, Dustin McDaniel is saying his client is without sufficient information to admit or deny the allegations in paragraph 5 through 12, and therefore denies the same. Anyway, so that's pretty interesting, isn't it? That we would have Hunter Biden possibly fathering a child with a woman from Independence County, Arkansas. And now, I mean, you never know. That's why you got to make friends, folks. That's why you got to make friends. Who knew that Dustin McDaniel and Hunter Biden, that this relationship would blossom as it has? They were both attorneys general during the time. He's in Delaware, Dustin's in Arkansas, and that relationship now. I mean, hey, you never know when you're going to need your fellow attorney general to represent you in court when some woman claims that she's now got a child that you fathered. You never know when those were. You gotta be ready to cash your chips in when that happens. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Still got to talk about this. Vehicle value mistake means tax rise for many. That's right, folks. Here in Arkansas, the organization that contracts with a private sector company to provide the government with the values of your automobiles, well, they were wrong, and it's going to end up costing you more money on your property tax. That's right, those things. No, not just your property tax like your home, but, your cars and stuff. Because the government, after you buy a car and pay sales tax on it, they think that they ought to be able to tax your property that you already own. It's wild, isn't it? We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Six or so who the source was. I could figure it out, and other people could if they thought about it a little bit. So was that really protecting a source? That's my first issue. And here's a fellow, and I think Woodward told everybody he was going to reveal Mark's name after he died. Well, I'm not so sure Mark wanted that either. Mm-hmm. So I'm not so sure the source was protected here. I agree that source protection is a very good thing, and the irony of it is that source protection became a paramount value because of Deep Throat, and yet at the same time, ironically, as I talk in my book, he was not being protected.
Wow. Man, it's just...
Does that make any sense to you?
well, yeah. I mean, it does. I mean, the fact you representing him is a big deal. And I see here you talk in your book about the real truth about the Watergate scandal.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Thousands of Arkansans can expect an increase in their personal property taxes due in 2020 after a recent discovery that the vehicle values provided by the state to its counties for 2019 were incorrect. Okay, so then the second paragraph, I read about the Arkansas Assessment Coordination Division I'm like, okay, the Arkansas Assessment Coordination Division. They're supposed to coordinate with counties, all 75 Arkansas counties. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I thought to myself, well, man, that must be a big job. Arkansas Assessment Coordination Division. They're helping assess, they're helping county clerks and, tax assessors and figure things out. And the Arkansas Assessment Coordination Division. Yeah, way to go, guys. You guys are you're really killing it. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that must be kind of tough, figuring out, what different vehicles are worth and then communicating it. I mean, that's got to be a lot of work. You'd think you probably got some experts on there that know a lot about cars, know a lot about vehicles and everything else. And then you figure out, well, quote, the Assessment Coordination Division contracts with a third party who provides the vehicle values. What? Really? Why do we need? I guess what I have found is they take the ideas and the legislating out of our lawmakers too, because for so often the only thing we're paying these guys to go down there and do is pay some private company to tell them what to do. I mean, why do we need the Assessment Coordination Division if all they do is contact a third party that provides the values of what vehicles are, and then you tax them according to the property? Like, why do we need this? Why do you need that level of government? I just don't get it. I don't understand. You telling me that I can't, if I'm a county officer, I can't go on Kelley Blue Book? I mean, if we're using private companies anyway, I mean, why not? Why not go look up the Blue Book value, or why not use your local car deal? I mean, why do you have to have a coordination board? If all they're there to do is to, we contract with some third party that produces this information for us. Well, why don't you guys produce the information? I mean, if they can produce the information, what are we paying you for? No? That was my thought this morning as I was reading this. I mean, yes, am I upset that it's that they got bad information from the third party? Yeah, they've got bad information from the third party, and so whatever they say that, you owed on your personal property taxes, not going to be accurate. Okay, all right. You're going to have to pay a little more. All right. And it's always more, right? I mean, if they had found the results that they had overcharged us, they wouldn't have done anything, by the way. The Assessment Coordination Board, or the Assessment Coordination Division, contracts with the third party. I mean, come on, guys. Like, why do we pay these? I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure, somebody's going to give me a long list. Oh, well, we also do these other things that are also very, very valuable. But this is kind of, I think, systemic in all levels of government. We're paying people down there to work for the government, and what we're really doing is paying people to contract with private third-party individuals that are going to really provide the data, and they're the ones that are employing the experts. They're the ones that have the, and it's just weird to me. Does anyone else feel like that this is like, are anybody tired of this? Like, why do we have the board if we could all just go get the information ourselves? Somebody, in our local community. And for that matter, it might be nice, speaking of, being overcharged, why don't we do an audit of this board and we decide whether or not there's past years where they've overcharged taxpayers on this issue? Maybe they've overestimated the value of your vehicles in the past. Maybe we're owed a giant refund from government. That'll never happen. Anyway, we're going to take a break. Going to be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Kind of hoping that some sort of Watergate type scandal will undo the Trump administration, that sort of thing. But what do you think the real truth behind Watergate was?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt, Paul, that they caught Nixon covering up. They had a White House tape there, and he had an act of covering up there, and he probably also there's another one where he probably condoned hush money. So there's no doubt of his technical guilt. He's guilty, as was Bill Clinton, and others probably have done the same thing. But the question is, what was Watergate about? And did the press really, through the Washington Post, really convey the truth about it? If the truth were really known, the discussion about whether Nixon should be impeached, whether he should be removed from office, would be entirely different. And when we have a criminal trial, the accused always gets all the exculpatory and extenuating and mitigating evidence. And it's the thrust of my book that the public did not get it in this case. I think we see today, when we get reporting about the Russian collusion investigation and so forth, how important it is for the public to really be informed. The people who, understandably, really disliked President Trump and pinned all their hopes on this Russian collusion investigation. I mean, I do my own research, and I thought they were being badly misled by the press, and then disappointed when Mueller's report comes out and says there was never a shred of collusion evidence, really is what it really amounts to. And I feel bad for them because I think they're misled by the press. So I don't. All the facts did not come out, and the most glaring one being in Watergate was the involvement of the CIA. And had people known about that, it would have cast an entirely different light on Watergate.
Really? So now that's interesting too, because if you are following now this investigation of the original investigation, what sparked this Russia collusion narrative. Some people are thinking it was some sort of intelligence operation as well. So, I mean, that's an interesting parallel there.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. In the Russian collusion investigation, this was set up from the beginning. One could tell that from the evidence. Like I say, I do my own research on these things, and that was very clear that it was really a setup, and the public was misled. For instance, just let me give you one example, Paul. When George Papadopoulos gets indicted for lying to the FBI about being contacted by Joseph Mifsud, and it really was very technical lies about whether he was with the campaign when Mifsud talked to him. And I think probably, like everyone else, didn't want to be associated with the Russian meddling thing at all, so he denied it. He denied talking to Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos denied talking about Mifsud after he was on the campaign and named to the campaign. In fact, it was after he was named, and that's precisely why Mifsud approached him. But Mifsud was described in Mueller's indictment as being Russian-connected, and everybody's talking about Mifsud being Russian-connected and Russian, going to Russia and talking to Russian people, and everyone assumed that he was a Russian agent. I think James Comey just wrote an op-ed calling Mifsud a Russian agent. But anybody with a brain can go on the internet right now and see that Mifsud's one of his closest people, his closest colleagues, is a woman named Claire Smith, who's in charge of British intelligence vetting. In other words, she's the person who decides whether somebody's an agent or not. And he teaches classes with her. He's a close friend of hers. He's always been associated with British intelligence. It's very hard not to find that in, like they say, in about 5 or 10 minutes. But he's always been, so he was clearly a guy that was sent in there to talk to Papadopoulos. It didn't happen by chance that this guy comes in, and then he was told to do it at a dinner in Rome. He has not said by whom, but he was also told to bring one of his students, and the student was to pose as Vladimir Putin's niece. So this is has the smell of a setup from the get-go, and my real
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being with us today. My name's Paul. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. Thank you for listening to the show. Folks, it's a restaurant that's been serving great meals since 1947. It's called the Old South Restaurant. It's in Russellville, Arkansas. And the owner, Dale Summit, is on the line with us right now. Dale, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm great, Paul. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So, I guess, people are, they're wanting to eat some breakfast right now. So, I mean, Old South can take care of that for them, right?
Yes, sir. We sure can. Come on over.
So I was, I would like to start. I want to talk about your history in business, and your career and how you landed at Old South. But I really got to start when I was in Russellville for the primary of that Senate election. There, I guess last year, or I can't even remember how long ago it was. Time flies. I had several.
I remember.
Okay, yeah, it was pretty intense. I had several meals there, and there's a hot sauce there that you sell, though. Can you tell us about that hot sauce? Because that is some of the best I've ever had.
Yes, sir. It's called River Valley pepper sauce, and it was it was born out of necessity. It's another one of those success stories. A fellow named Rodney Yeager and a couple of other guys have started the company called My Pepper, and he was a manager at a restaurant, and one of his cooks grew some great peppers, and they were making salsa from his garden. And one of the customers didn't like any of the hot sauces that they had, so they began to tinker with it just to please him, and came up with a sauce out of the combination out of the salsa and the other ingredients that they had, and then other customers began to try this, and they loved it, and it went from there. The stores picked it up, and now they sell it. Retail it out of several places locally, and ship it over the internet.
That's fantastic. River Valley pepper sauce. That's good stuff.
Yes, sir.
And you guys have it on your tables, right?
Yes, we do. And then we also retail it. We have it in the, on display. So we sell it. We sell it by, by the bottle also.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. I bought a few bottles and to take back with me. I have been singing the praise of River Valley pepper sauce, but also Old South Restaurant. So let's start there, Dale. I mean, I know we've had you on the program before, but we like to highlight small business owners. We like to highlight small business here at Conduit News. You guys are the backbone of Arkansas business, and so how did you land? Tell us again. How did you land at Old South?
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank you for the stands you take that are close to us. The first encounter we had with Old South was my children went to Tech. I have 3 children, and they all went to college at Arkansas Tech. So we would go into the restaurant from time to time. We were in the restaurant business also at that time. We had a restaurant outside of Hot Springs Village, and never thought of buying it at that time. But eventually, we sold the one in Hot Springs Village, and my son and I were looking to be in business again after a couple of years of being bored, and that one became available, and along with some others, but we chose that one because of the atmosphere of the town, the small town atmosphere, and the fact that it had, it had a lot of. We felt like it had a lot of potential, had a lot of history. It seemed to fit what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you this. Do you, obviously when the economy's doing good, more people go out to dinner, right? Is that true?
Yes, sir. Of course.
So, how do you gauge that right now? How's business doing? How is the economy, here in Arkansas? We hear that it's, doing good, but how's it doing for you?
Well, the restaurant business, when the economy is doing good, it's opens the door for competition. So we have more competition than we would have had the economy been stagnant all these years. So it's not all it is not all peaches and cream. We have to step up to meet the increased competition when things are going good.
Wow.
But that's the case with any business. The better things go, the more people want to be in on the action.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I hadn't
but
actually thought of that. Go ahead.
We enjoyed the success that other people have because of the economy. So it is more fun when the economy's going good.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the the tax cuts, the new tax policy that's been put in place? Was that something that was helpful, or did it have any effect at all?
Well, there are so many things that are going on. Are you talking about the national tax cuts?
The Trump tax cuts. Let's start there.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it put more money in people's pockets, more spendable cash. Their house payment didn't go up because they got a tax decrease, and it helped the businesses that depend on spendable cash.
Yeah.
And yes, it has helped.
We're talking, folks, with Dale Summit. He's the owner of the Old South Restaurant. You can find him, that's 1330 East Main Street in Russellville. And it's been serving, it's been open since 1947. And it's pretty interesting because, the history of the restaurant, Dale, is what I find interesting when you look at, it was one of the only places to stop to eat at one time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. The conclusion, or the story is, from between Conway and Fort Smith, this was the only major restaurant to serve people 24 hours. It was open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 a year. The story is someone, they needed to close it for something, and no one could find a key to the front door because they never closed.
Wow.
But it, it served people in all of the entertainment industry, the political people, because when the speeches and the shows were over, this was the only place to go. So it has served, of course, Elvis Presley is the most famous, and on down to Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, most of the politicians and the entertainers from that era.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, it's a great place. I think if you're in the area and you need a hot breakfast, I think that's the place to go right now, or lunch or dinner. Dale, I'm a big fan of Old South, and I really appreciate you coming on this morning and spending a little time with us.
Well, Paul, we're a big fan of you. We listen to you, and we embrace your ideas, and we want to thank you for standing up for the things that we don't get a chance to stand for. And we just love your show. We love your stands. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Dale. I appreciate those kind words. God bless you, and you guys have a great week.
Thank you. God bless you.
All righty. Dale Summit, everybody, owner of the Old South Restaurant. Again, 1330 East Main in Russellville. Yeah, go over there right now, and tell them, hey, I just heard you on Conduit News. Let them know. And get some of that pepper sauce, man. I cannot emphasize the pepper sauce enough. That stuff is amazing. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to reset here. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, you want to know why your son or your daughter goes off to college and gets indoctrinated? Well, the reason is because of a man named Howard Zinn. We're going to be interviewing an author by the name of Mary Graybar, who's written a book debunking the teachings of Howard Zinn, debunking Howard Zinn, exposing the fake history that turned a generation against America. We'll be talking with her coming up at 7:33 this morning. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas state capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Point here isn't that is not to talk about the setup by the intelligence agencies, but I'm more worried about the media reporting it well.
Oh my goodness!
Had the media reported this well, right from the beginning, people would have said, "Why hire Mueller? This is really silly." Mm-hmm. There's no, and as a matter of fact, of all people to hire a special prosecutor because of James Comey. Mm-hmm. Here's James Comey leading the setup along with John Brennan. And we're hiring a special prosecutor because Comey says, well, gee, he fired me, or the president fired me. He must be covering up this terrible Russian collusion investigation, and that's what it was about. So we have this weird situation where the president is being set up, and he's being investigated precisely because he was set up and perhaps smelled a rat. I'm not here to apologize for any rhetoric or any blundering that President Trump has done. Everyone knows he's sort of a bull in a china shop. But
bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right. 870-275-9228. 9799. Hey, if you missed the first hour's podcast, then you may not know that this idea of buying Greenland was Senator Tom Cotton's idea. And he told Trump and he told the Danish ambassador. And it's, I think it's a good idea. But then you have some interesting people, like Max Brantley and others. Tom Cotton said it's only a bad idea if you only have Trump derangement, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And, it's just people that have a personal hatred for the president and they can't get behind literally any idea that he proposes. And it's quite a psychological phenomenon. It really, truly is. The telephone number again, 870-275-9799. Real quick, we got to cover this story. Arkansas School District Chief recalls casino pitch. JP argues private talks don't count as meetings. This is incredible to me. Now, so we told you about the casino in Jefferson County yesterday. Now, we're going to refocus on Pope County. Speaking of Russellville, this is very interesting to me. A Russellville School District administrator said Tuesday that he attended a private meeting earlier this month with elected Pope County officials, including 3 members of the Quorum Court who told him about the benefits of a casino and how that would help the school district in the River Valley. Back on August the 6th, it was a week to the day before Pope County Quorum Court voted back on the 13th of August to endorse the Cherokee Nation businesses of Oklahoma for a casino there. They're going with the Cherokee Nations. Russellville School District Superintendent Mark Gotcher provided the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette reporter with a written memo Tuesday night documenting the August 6th meeting, as well as copies of a text exchange he had with Ben Cross, the county judge of Polk County. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because you're not supposed to have meetings that aren't open to the public. You're not supposed to have extra meetings, and you're not supposed to do straw polls and say, like, okay, how many votes do we have? This is the whole idea behind Freedom of Information Act. And why, you have to have meetings that are, accountable to the people if you are a public official. We've had Fort Smith attorney Joey McCutcheon on several times discussing this very thing. According to documentation, Gotcher said he was ushered into Cross's office about 3:15 by Cross's secretary, was greeted by Pope County Justices of the Peace Doug Skelton, Caleb Moore, and Ernie Eckelmeyer. And let's see here. They were wrapping up the meeting. Gotcher said in an interview after a regularly scheduled meeting Tuesday of the Russellville School District, Gotcher wrote in the documentation that, quote, a conversation began about some possible opportunities that the casino entity might be able to offer. Topics included were possible funds that could benefit the Center for Arts Foundation, purchase of school buses, nonprofit opportunities that we could apply for, and possible capital improvement projects. The conversation lasted approximately 10 to 15 minutes before all left except Judge Cross and me. Let's see here. Messages left for Cross and the other JPs were not returned. Skelton said in a telephone interview late Tuesday that he did not consider the August 6th meeting with Gotcher an actual meeting under the legal definition. Quote, you guys are a bunch of ... Skelton said before halting, then continued by asking the Arkansas Democrat Gazette reporter, are you telling me it was planned? I didn't call a meeting. Skelton went on to say that he believes that there were more Quorum Court members in attendance in the August 6th gathering in Cross's office besides him, Moore, and Eckelmeyer. Hang on a second. I didn't call the meeting. What I'm pretty sure Justice of the Peace Jamie Jackson walked in. There was nothing illegal, nothing improper. Let's see, Jackson said Tuesday night that he does not recall the meeting. Skelton continued raising his voice periodically and called the Arkansas Democrat Gazette's reporter's intelligence into question before saying that Cross was smart in how he chose the Cherokee Nation businesses to endorse for their casino. Quote, Judge Cross scheduled individual meetings with Quorum Court members Skelton said. He's not a dummy. He called us into his chambers to go over what the proposals were, and if we liked it, we liked it. If we didn't, we didn't. It just so happened that 8 people liked the Cherokees. Well, that's essentially saying that you're polling. Okay, all right. So he's getting a vote count is what he is. I mean, that's what he's doing here, getting a vote count. There was little discussion among quorum court members before the decision was made last week at the special called quorum court meeting to sign a one-page resolution to support Cherokee Nation businesses. I mean, that's exactly right. There were multiple reports, people saying, it was very brief. Really no discussion. Well, of course there's no discussion of it if you've already had a meeting behind closed doors that we're finding out about. Hey, listen, why am I interested in this? Number one, the possibility for corruption here is much higher than your average deal, right? Because we're talking about casinos, all right? I mean, why do you think the mayor of Pine Bluff was in the paper talking about her relationship with the Quapaw tribe and being like, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to do anything that's wrong. We're going to keep everything above board. We're being totally transparent. You got the Quapaw, chairman of the Quapaw Nation saying, hey, I don't want to be having to explain to some U.S. attorney why I cut a check here or there. So we're just going to keep all of this above board, right? Like they are insistent. I mean, maybe almost so insistent that you're kind of like, But because it's a casino, it's like, it goes with, it's a given that people are going to be skeptical. And what do we have in Pope County, though? We have, according to the reports, we have kind of a different picture. Now, I know the community down in Jefferson County, they are much more solidly behind putting a casino in. Pope County is divided. But up in Pope County, you're having secret meetings between elected officials. There is certainly a contrast between the two. And I think that's because you have people that want the casino wholeheartedly, for the most part, in Jefferson County. But in Pope County, you have a county that voted against the amendment that allowed this to be put in our Constitution. They voted against it, but the rest of the state voted for it. Other people that don't even live in Pope County are voting to put something in their backyard. It's not right, but yet it happened. And now here we are. Man. Judge Cross scheduled individual meetings. It says it right here. He's not a dummy. He called us into his chambers to go over what the proposals were. There was little discussion among quorum court members before the decision was made. In Arkansas Attorney General Opinion number 2000-111, then Attorney General Mark Pryor said it's illegal to poll individual members of a governing body outside of a public meeting in order to reach a consensus or make a decision. Of the 13 justices of the peace, 8 voted to sign the resolution. The Cherokees had the best proposal hands down, Skelton said. In a text message sent from Gotcher to Cross at 9:56 a.m. on August 13th, Gotcher told Cross that he knew it was going to be a big day for you. But I wanted to let you know we do feel comfortable / support any changes to the property tax revenue stream that would affect our district. The precedents that could cause would not be good for any district in Arkansas. In the telephone interview, Skelton said that the August 6th meeting with Gotcher was not illegal. I don't care who is sitting there listening. At no time was I asked the question by any other justice of the peace, nor did I ask any other JP questions. If Dr. Gotcher asked me a question, I can answer it. You're trying to make something out of nothing. It's really simple, but you chose to ignore that process. No, what I think is going on here is this type of stuff is probably happening all over Arkansas. These private meetings, polling justices of the peace or city councilmen before and after. It's probably happening all over Arkansas, but they don't understand how stringent public meeting laws are in this state. They don't understand that they are, in fact, violating the law because there hasn't really been an active citizenry. It takes to hold them accountable, it takes a giant issue like something like this for people to start realizing, wow, the way that you're governing, is kind of behind closed doors and not in public, and you've been caught now because it's a big controversial issue. That's what I think's actually going on here. We'll be back in a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
We went a bit far here by investigating a guy for treason for 2 years. I mean, that's really, really bad. And so I've written about that before. In June of 17, I wrote that this was not anything at all. I said this was the elite left version of a birther conspiracy. And unfortunately, and I thought the birther conspiracy was very innocent, and people were just asking questions. But yet everyone got offended that, how can you ask questions about President Obama? Now we've got someone actually accusing Trump of treason.
Yeah.
And we're bringing down the might of the government on him. And I wrote that in June of 17. I said, this is a silly investigation. I had done the research. I've looked on the Internet. Can a reporter do that? I mean, I work 10 hours a day.
Well, so let's come back to that. So they clearly have an agenda, and the title of your book, folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking with John O'Connor. He is a former assistant U.S. attorney.
Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Welcome back, folks. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to contribute today. Folks, I want you to welcome to the program. We have author Mary Graybar on the line. Mary, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'm so glad that you could spend some time with us talking about this new book that was out this month. I guess it was out 2 days ago, coming out August 20th. It's now the 22nd. Debunking Howard Zinn, exposing the fake history that turned a generation against America. What made you want to write this book, Mary?
Well, I've been wanting to write it for more than a decade. I was teaching college. I no longer am. I'm a resident fellow here at the Alexander Hamilton Institute, but I was appalled by what my college students did not know. I was teaching literature, an American literature survey course, and around 2005, I mentioned that the writer we were discussing, Richard Wright, had written the short story that we were going to discuss during his communist phase. And I got these quizzical looks from about a third of the class. They had never heard the word communist. There's appalling ignorance among our college students, and it's just growing worse and worse as Howard Zinn's book becomes more influential, spreads out throughout the education system and in our culture and politics, and keeps selling. I mean, it's a phenomenon in terms of publishing.
So talk a little bit about Howard Zinn's piece, his book, A People's History of the United States, and, when it came about, and, it's almost like people were, they were hungry for something that could tear down America.
Yes, well, his book was first published in 1980. It's been in publication ever since, so almost 40 years ago. And, of course, by 1980, you had the New Left, the Vietnam protesters, the hippies, and so forth, the people who were at Woodstock wallowing in the mud, who, went into teaching. A disproportionate number of people of that generation, the ones who were out there protesting, went into academia or teaching. So the groundwork was laid. There were other historians that were like-minded and were putting a left-wing twist on American history. And Howard Zinn's evil genius was to plagiarize those, as I show in my book often, and present it as his own and exaggerate what they were saying. So there are outright lies, plagiarisms, distortion of the original source's views, etc. So he was able to do that as a propagandist, and his book took off. We don't really remember the other people who were writing at the time, but we do have the influence of Howard Zinn.
We're talking with Mary Graybar. She's the author of a book. It's been out for 2 days. You can get it on Amazon. You can see it right there on your screen, Debunking Howard Zinn. So things like, so you're saying when he talks about how Columbus was essentially a genocidal maniac, that maybe that wasn't his original thought. He's plagiarized that from somebody else, but maybe even extorted what they said. So tell me about that. I mean, let's just start with Columbus as an example.
Okay, yes, those are probably the most famous pages, his opening pages of A People's History of the United States. And you read it and you think, wow, this is a real injustice. Columbus and his men landed, and the natives came up and offered them food and gifts, and what did they do? They chopped off their hands, they raped and pillaged, because the natives then couldn't produce the gold they were looking for. And so I'd read this, and I also decided to check out some of the books from his bibliography. He doesn't use footnotes, but he does provide something of a bibliography. And I was reading it one night, one of his books, which is a short paperback for high school students, and I noticed these very striking similarities. And lo and behold, he had plagiarized, basically copied from another source, from Hans Koning's book for high school students on Christopher Columbus. Now, Koning was not a historian. He was a novelist, and he was a socialist, and he was one of Zinn's comrades in the anti-Vietnam War movement. And what I discovered was also that Zinn copied what Koning copied from Columbus's journals, and Zinn very deceptively uses ellipses, the points to show that a passage or a sentence has been deleted. Well, he uses an ellipses to, but there are 2 days that are deleted. So what Zinn says is that Columbus wrote about, the native Arawak Indians, as he calls them. They would make fine servants, ellipses. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. Now, that fits into his narrative of him being a genocidal maniac. But what he leaves out pages, but one of the key phrases is, this is what Columbus wrote, "I know that they are a people who can be made free and converted to our holy faith more by love than by force. So that's the opposite meaning of what Howard Zinn presents as Columbus's intention.
Wow.
That is one example.
Wow. And we've got generations of kids. You got parents that scratch their heads like, what happened to my son or daughter when they come back from that first semester of of college? And this is the reason why, because you've got this book that's he's based everything on, and he's essentially a fraud. I mean, essentially he's lied, and he's that's why you have some people that have tried to correct this, and you're one of them, Mary, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there have been stabs at him. I think a lot of historians have, picked up his book and looked at it, and it's just an overwhelming task to, go and attack all the lies in it. And so they've had an article here and there. But what I've tried to do is to systematically expose his lies, and the book really is an expose. I object to his anti-Americanism, of course, but I also want to give people a tool. So when they say they don't like Howard Zinn, and a leftist or one of his allies says, "Well, that's just because you have a different viewpoint." Well, no, that's not the case. The case is that he is really a fraud, and that he lies, he distorts, he manipulates, and it's not real history.
I didn't even know this was in Zinn's book. American Indians, he claims were feminists or feminists, and they were sexual revolutionaries ahead of their time. That's an interesting bullet point.
Well, that's sort of become the dominant view, and he, of course, builds that up. And so if you read Howard Zinn, you would think that, that North America and South America was populated by these tribes of peace-loving proto-hippies living in communes where, and they were feminists, and women made political decisions, and they divided the labor. But that is not the case. I go through, the older sources, and I also go through some contemporary scholarship that shows that, no, in fact, there were, tribes raided other tribes. They killed the men. They took the women and the children. And, it was nothing like that. There was cannibalism. They, if they defeated another tribe in a battle, they, would cut out the heart sometimes and eat it. So, they were not these kind of hippie types that were living in perfect harmony with nature and sharing everything.
Yeah, that never knew violence until, Christopher Columbus, showed them how to be violent. I mean, that goes against human nature entirely, I mean, we'll descend into violent madness, left to our own devices. All humans do. We're talking with Mary Graybar. Again, she's a fellow at the Alexander Hamilton Institute, and her new book that was out, it was released back on the 20th. Today's the 22nd, so it's only been available for 2 days. You need to check this out at Amazon, Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America. I'm really glad when you were talking earlier about the academia and the professors who were wallowing in the mud, at Woodstock. That really is the case. I mean, you got to think about that. I mean, that those folks went into academia, and they already did, being at Woodstock. Not to say that you were at Woodstock that you're, some sort of anti-American, but at that time, a lot of those young people, they were into a kind of a new ideology. I mean, and some people believe that everybody should do drugs. There were some people that believed this. Everyone should do drugs so that we could end a war, or end our violent tendencies. And so it really is I guess a flag post, if you will, a marker for kind of two different paths of thought that really does shape the way we look at events now, right? I mean, it almost is kind of the beginning of the right and the left that we see today.
Yeah, exactly. We have today the idea that education's purpose is to promote social justice. There's less reading and writing and discussion, rational discussion, and there's protesting. There is rampant activism through our educational system, K through 12 and in college. We were talking about Columbus, and this is coming into our institutions as well. And I noticed that the Smithsonian is co-sponsoring 2 teach-ins that are going to be using Howard Zinn's materials promoted through the Zinn Education Project. And the purpose of these 2 teach-ins is to educate teachers on Howard Zinn's version of Columbus and to promote Abolish Columbus Day. So that's where we are. So it's in, Howard Zinn is in our institutions. He's in the Smithsonian, concerts, public events, publicly sponsored events, NEA sponsored events. It's everywhere.
Well, I have to say this, and I think, there's a lot of parents right now who have just moved their son or their daughter into their dorm room. They did it last weekend here in Arkansas, and, so they're doing this all over the country right now. And so I would just encourage parents, maybe they need to buy this book. I think they do need to buy your book, read it. And so, if your son or daughter comes home and is, taking that philosophy class 101 and is now questioning everything, well, what is it based off of? You know what I mean? Or taking that history class, what is it based off of? And I think this would be a great tool to provide the correct point of view and the truth about American history, Mary.
Yeah, and that's what this book is intended to do. It's to be a tool. Is to provide ammunition, because typically, and I'm around a lot of college students here at the Alexander Hamilton Institute, and they get attacked by their professors if they disagree, and the professor will simply say, well, you don't care about social justice, you're a racist, you're a conservative Republican. And you need a comeback. And what I tried to do in this book is go through the major points that Howard Zinn makes. I've done extensive research. I've gone through his sources. I've gone to Howard Zinn's papers at New York University. I've gone to the Library of Congress. I've quoted historians, legitimate historians, both on the right and the left. A lot of leftist professors don't like him and disagree with Howard Zinn, think that he's a fraud. And so I offer this book, and, if any of the professors, would tell the students, well, I know more than you do, well, go back to the footnotes, look it up. There's the documentation, and argue on the basis of facts.
I got one more question for you. You say you used to teach. You're a professor, you taught at the college level, having this accurate version of history, the truth, knowing the truth, Mary, did you ever find it hard, personally? Were there any consequences for you, kind of knowing that you're kind of in academia and it is, that you're the minority, your opinion is the minority?
Well, I never was able to get a tenured track position, a permanent position. And so I was teaching, on temporary year-to-year contracts, and I've lost jobs because I would publish articles about the corruption I saw, and soon as the department chair got wind of it, or in one case a college president, I was told, well, there were no more classes available for me to teach the following semester. So I was drummed out, and, any conservative these days, if they can get in, it's usually as a temporary, a very low pay, no benefits. And if you are outspoken, or even if you don't go along with them and agree in their conversations, you will find yourself not called back.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I'm glad that you've done this. I'm glad you've written this book. It's going to be a big hit. It's going to be a helpful tool. Mary Graybar, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Best of luck, and hopefully we can talk again sometime.
Okay, yeah, I'd love that. Thank you.
Mary Graybar, everybody. Debunking Howard Zinn. It's up at Amazon right now, exposing the fake history that turned a generation against America. This is a valuable tool, especially in light of it's back-to-school season. And, your kids in high school are going to get some of this stuff, too. You forget about that. Your kids in high school are going to get some of this stuff as well. I mean, real quick, Columbus was not a genocidal maniac. Was, in fact, a defender of the Indians. Okay, you ever heard that before? No? Why the American Indians were not feminist, communist, sexual revolutionaries ahead of their time. How the United States was founded to protect liberty, not white males' ill-gotten wealth. Why Americans of the greatest generation were not the equivalent of Nazi war criminals. How the Viet Cong were not well-meaning community leaders advocating for local self-rule. And why the Black Panthers were not a civil rights organization. Again, this would be a good thing for all of us to have and get. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back here in just a moment with your meme of the day. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. From Northern California. His book is due out in November. It's called Postgate, and the subtitle, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. And that's what you're describing there when it comes to reporting on Russia collusion, sir, is this partisan advocacy journalism. They're leaving the relevant information, on the cutting room floor. And so back to what you said about how the Post failed to report the truth about Watergate or some key details about Watergate, and you specifically mentioned the CIA. Go into that a little bit more.
Well, yeah, like I said, the way you tie them together is when people say John Dean testifies this is another Watergate. In fact, Paul, it is another Watergate, but not for the reasons stated. Let me just cast the scene at the burglary. There are 5 people that are arrested.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, tomorrow on the program at 7:30, we're going to be interviewing Marshall Terrell. Now, Greg Laurie and Marshall Terrell wrote a book called Johnny Cash, The Redemption of an American Icon. Can you tell I'm a little excited about this? You know why I'm excited about this? I'm excited about this because this is about Cash's story with his struggles. You know, we all struggle, right? Maybe you don't struggle with addiction and drugs and alcohol, but we all struggle with something. And you got ups and downs, and you're in the valley, and you're on the mountain, and you're in the valley again. And man, Cash's struggle in public life and his faith in Jesus Christ are something that the turbulence. It's like, man, so powerful. It is so powerful if you look at Johnny Cash's life. I've been saying this forever, right? I just got this book in the mail yesterday, so I haven't had time to read it. But, you know, they give me a press kit and everything else. Listen, I'm telling you, I have been saying this for a while, haven't I? Right? I mean, you look at all those music stars, you look at all those Hollywood stars, and you look at them and you can just see what happens. And there is no struggle. There's just, you know, I've decided this is, you know, and yet Johnny Cash, man, he got out of it and survived it. He did. And I think this is why Arkansas, by the way, this is why I'm so glad that the Arkansas General Assembly decided to put a statue of Cash representing Arkansas in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. The redemption of American icon. On the back of this book here, they got a quote from Russell Moore, the president of Ethics and Religious Liberty at the Southern Baptist Convention. I've been a Johnny Cash fan since I was a young boy. I'm so glad Greg Laurie has chronicled his turbulent life and faith so thoroughly. This book will be an encouragement to you wherever you are on your journey. And then all these quotes on the back. Alice Cooper, there was something special about him. He was like Steve McQueen or James Dean. There was this coolness about him that everybody could respect. He was more relatable than Dylan. He was an all-American character that you could trust. He could be your cool uncle. I love Bono's quote, and I don't like Bono. The most male voice in Christendom. Every man knows he's a sissy compared to Johnny Cash. Bob Dylan. Johnny was and is the North Star. You could guide your ship by him. You know, all these guys. Keith Richards as well. I mean, Keith Richards, if someone came up to me and for some reason they could only get a collection of one person's music, I'd say, Chuck Berry is important. But, man, you got to get the Cash. Anyway, this is about his journey, the redemption of an American icon. We're going to be interviewing Marshall Terrell tomorrow on Johnny Cash Friday. Can you tell? I'm a little excited about it. Here's your meme of the day, folks. This is courtesy of _conservative teenager. How am I reading that? That's small print. Bernie Sanders on his way to a rally against the 1%, and it's a photo of Scrooge McDuck on skis going down his mountain of gold inside his vault, you know, that he swims in, with also Huey, Dewey, and Louie. We're going to post this up at the Conduit News Twitter, at Conduit News on Twitter, facebook.com/Conduit News. If you are just joining us in the first hour, we talked a lot about Senator Tom Cotton. It was his idea to buy Greenland. And, of course, I think that's, fantastic that Trump listens to people. The people on the left don't. It's almost like they would rather him listen to factions. It's weird. We talked about that a little bit. Also, birthright citizenship, ending it is going to be the next big cry of racism from the left. You wait and see. State Representative Andy Davis will not seek re-election. We told you about that. And let's see here. Also, Ben Gilmore will be challenging Democrat Arkansas Senator Eddie Cheatham. So that's interesting. Anytime you got a Republican trying to unseat a Democrat here in Arkansas, you know, I mean, they're becoming like the Democrats in Arkansas are becoming like the dodo, man. They really are. They're going the way of the dodo. Anyway, we'll have more on all of this tomorrow on the show. Also going to be talking to the chairman of the Randolph County Republican Committee. It's always great to talk to him. We'll be doing that. And again, this Johnny Cash interview, I'm stoked for it. I really am. Arkansas, be safe.